Hello, welcome. My name is Rob. I'm the COO here at Pattern. I've been with Pattern just under 3 years now. I started my career at Amazon. I was an intern. I was there for 8 years. I did a bunch of stuff at Amazon, all on the operations side. I was on concrete a lot, spent a lot of hours in warehouses, but super cool time. I joined in 2010, a very crazy time at Amazon. There were like 8 fulfillment centers in the US, kind of an insane kind of time to come in at Amazon. I remember I tell a story when I came back to my dorm room, I had my job offer for my internship. I go to my roommate and I was like, I got a job offer at Amazon.com, which is what it was called at the time, by the way. And he said, what is that? Which is crazy to think today. But this is not that long ago. So I would say pretty early Amazon days. I got to be there during this crazy growth period at Amazon and very, very fortunate through that period of time. A lot of people bet on me early in my career, and I had a chance to do some really, really big jobs at Amazon, including robotics and a bunch of other cool stuff that I had a chance to do. So I do want to apologize. You had to wait this long to really talk about logistics and fulfillment. You had to talk about that other stupid shit for days, AI and all that BS. Finally, something that'll keep your attention. We've been listening to a couple great speakers, right? I mean, John LeBaron's just one of the better guys I've seen on stage in a very long time. He's fantastic. Sorry, I didn't know you were in here. Fuck John. No, but here, John actually gave me a little tee up. John talked about something at the beginning of his speech, and I thought it was really interesting. His physics teacher. I'd first want to say, John, physics is not that hard, okay? I did great. I got an A. I just want to remind you. John said something, though. His teacher said, hey, you should really find something that you are, like maybe you're just not good at physics. And I actually thought, I was like, that actually lands pretty well. And then we got to listen to Neil, someone who's the top 0.00001% of a thing, right? And you got to hear him talk about it. And frankly, it was a great speech, but what I did take out of that is that we're so small and we're so insignificant, none of this shit matters, so I'm not gonna do this anymore. Have a great day. It's just crazy, right? So we hear these. And Dave came and spoke and he said, we're finally getting the hardware game, but Dave is also very wrong. We've been in the hardware game in our warehouses for years. And you get to see a little bit of that here. So I don't regularly call Dave a liar. This is one of those times I shall. We've been in the hardware game for quite a time. So what I'm going to focus on today, we're going to have Ellie come up. Ellie was with the brand at Super Coffee. We're going to do that there toward the end. I want to talk a little bit about specialization, how things have changed over time within the logistics and fulfillment world, where it's going. I talk to brands, I talk to hundreds and hundreds of brands. And when I do this, a lot of times they're like, how do I streamline my operations? It's a really common question that people have, right? And so they're trying to figure that out. I want to talk maybe a little bit counter to some of the last few years around where the conversation has been. So we're going to step through that and talk a little bit. But first, last year I was at Accelerate, and I gave a great speech, all right? But this is what I don't want to have happen today. So if you could please, this video was sent by someone on my team, Nick. I think Nick is in here now. So just take a watch of what happened last year. Super fast, doing a lot of volume in a short time, very Amazon. But I want to talk a little bit through that journey and the way that I see it. So you're used to thinking now, Amazon, these beautiful trucks in the background of Seattle. What? He could not be more asleep. I think he was snoring. I think that's how we knew. Like, that was insane. Please don't, just leave. Just leave. Can we just all be cool? So please don't fall asleep in the conversation. All right, I need 3 volunteers. I need 3 people. I will sit here for a long period of time. All right, we got 1. I will randomly choose people. All right, well, 2, right in the front. Come on up, have a seat. Yeah, let's go. All right, have a seat. What is your name?
Brent DeLay.
Brent?
Rob Principe.
Rob, great name.
Karen Hergesheimer.
Karen, that is a long last name. What was it, Hergensheimer? Hergesheimer, fantastic. That is an awesome last name. Okay, so we're going to have you guys do something. And by the way, I have a little prize for at the end. But we're going to do something. Can you guys sit here? I'm going to keep talking, but, oh yeah, it's just like, no, sit down. Okay, can you guys go ahead and solve this for me? That'd be great. Okay? I'm going to keep going. We'll come back later. We have 39 minutes left, so hang tight. All right, keep going. Absolutely not. No, you cannot phone a friend. All right, so from the beginning of time, let's go all the way back. If we think about what specialization really means, are there any people here? How many people sell on Amazon today? How many people are also farmers? They make their own corn. Okay, none? Yeah, right? So specialization is actually something that humans have done for a very, very, very long time. Right? So if you think about the fact that we're all sitting here today, it actually foundationally runs back to the very beginning of time where we said, hey, I need to make my own food. How are you guys doing back there? You guys done? All right, great. Keep going. From the beginning of time, people said, hey, if I'm really great at a thing, I can actually, you focus on your thing and I'll focus on my thing, right? It's a foundation. Everyone's like, yeah, of course that's true. I'm not going to be a farmer as well. We've tried to do this across all things. And if you start to think about the people that are the absolute best of a thing, they're experts at that thing, and it takes trillions of transactions in some scenarios. Like, think about the people that are the best and the best and the best in the world. Think about Neil, how many hours he has spent doing what he does, right? The people that are at that top have specialized completely in that, and then we actually, in some scenarios, we pay for corn, for example, right? Because we can't do that and our jobs. It allows us all to be the best at the thing that we are better at. So, baseball. I generally try to stay away from sports analogies because, frankly, sports are fine. But one of my favorite things in baseball is when you have someone, when a team is up really, really by a lot or down a lot and the game doesn't matter anymore, they want to save their pitchers. And they put in a position player. Has anybody seen this in a game before? It's the most ridiculous thing. And I've got some video here I can show you. What ends up happening, these are world-class athletes. These are world-class, like a first baseman playing baseball is like the top 0.00, like it's an insane percentage of baseball players that are out there. And they put them on the mound, but it's not their specialty. Let's see what happens.
And Jeffers blasts one to left center field and gone, a home run.
World-class athlete.
Fourth home run of the night for the Twins.
This guy's like, thank you for patting my
Jeffers
stats.
hits his first of the year.
There's a long drive to left off the bat of J.D. Davis.
Look at the score, 12-3.
And it's gone. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. That's my favorite there. Okay, these guys are incredible, once again, incredible athletes, but it's not their specialty, right? Because they haven't spent, and they look dumb. Like you watch a pitcher and you're used to seeing a pitcher do that thing, right? And you watch him pitch and you're like, it just doesn't look right. His body motion is wrong. Like his arm doesn't quite move the same way as a pitcher, right? Like the small details, because he hasn't spent hours and hours. His body's not used to it, right? There's specialization that ends up being something very, very important, specific. Are you guys done yet?
Yeah. I'm colorblind.
That's good. All right, so let's talk about fulfillment. Let's talk about fulfillment a little bit, okay? At the beginning of where we start, like retail, so like zoom back a couple, like when we started saying, I'm making a product that I'm gonna then sell, right? So it was decentralized fulfillment. So like if I'm a brand, I have to figure it out myself, right? And then we started getting like the birth of a 3PL. They're like, actually, I'm gonna be a little bit better than you are at doing this thing. But this is retail, right? This isn't e-commerce at that time. This is, how do I get stuff into Walmart and the early retailers, or like your mom and pop shop and distributors, et cetera, right? They create the 3PLs, you get specialties in that process, and then over time, that's just B2B, or e-commerce doesn't exist. Then there's the birth of e-commerce. And we started saying, hey, I'm going to be a specialty, for example, in just your D2C. I'm going to lump like Amazon in that scenario into more of like a D2C bucket, and you've got a B2B bucket, right? So they said, hey, I'm going to be a specialty, right? Some of the early people doing D2C fulfillment, it's a massively different problem, right? And so they started saying, hey, I'm going to go ahead and specialize here. Now, in the last few years, you've heard this push, right? If you are in this, how many people in here are in like the supply chain or operations in the businesses that you work in? This is a common thing. People are like, oh man, if I can figure out how to do B2B and my inventory, have it pooled together, it'll actually save me some X, Y, or Z, right? The reality is, if we focus on somebody that can do both of those things, there are very, very, very few people, / my hypothesis is that almost no one, if not no one, can do both of these things well. Like, who's in a very old B2B 3PL? Like, Geodis, UPS, okay, yeah, raise your hand. I know you guys. I know Tim. Tim's like, I don't know. Right, like, these guys are archaic. The software they use, they're not used to that much. It's like a first baseman trying to throw a pitch, right? They're not used to that thing, so they end up doing stupid stuff and not understanding how to do it. There's a dumb tax they have to pay, and it ends up coming on a seller or a shipper or a D2C, a customer, right? That's sitting on your door. It's a totally different problem to solve. But they're trying to solve it together. And so my hypothesis, what I want to talk through and give some examples today, is that actually you should not do that. There's some ways that you can optimize that and get some of the benefits that you get with inventory pooling, et cetera. But the old 100-year-old 3PLs that are moving cases and pallets are not the ones that are going to be great at picking 2 items, putting them in a box and sending to a consumer, or sending into the requirements of Amazon, for example, or Walmart, WFS, when it's massively different from every other motion. You've just given up, haven't you, Ken? Okay, nice. There you go. All right, so let's see. This is my biggest thing right here. Logistics and fulfillment is not yet commoditized. It just isn't. It just isn't. If you are going out and you're doing an RFP for a 3PL and you're super worried about their pick pack rates, they're not all the same. We're not all the same, right? So we do our core business where we're buying and selling inventory. We're also a 3PL. We do D2C fulfillment, we do reverse logistics. We actually have a product called Middle Mile that a seller can just ship right along with our product going into Amazon. We're the largest shipper into Amazon in the world by a lot. We'll do well over 100 million units this year through the 4 walls of our facilities. We've invested tens of millions of dollars in software and hardware to drive through. We got a video actually later I'll show you. But we are much better than the average. The distance between the average runner, for example, and the Olympic sprinter, think about that distance. You could be the 99.999 percentile sprinter in the world, and you don't even make it close to the podium. You don't even make it to the Olympics. That is the distance. So it is not close. The best of the best, even in the logistics fulfillment, is still very far from the average. And even the top 1% is significantly well ahead of the others. 80% of warehouses in the United States, 80% of warehouses in the United States do not use any type of hardware or software automation, which is a crazy stat. If you really think about it, like you see the Amazons, right? You can YouTube this, right? You can see these. It's not actually a crazy thing. Most people are not using automation, and it means that they don't have the ability. Now, automation in fulfillment, robotics, not for everybody, right? It's not actually for the right answer for lots of brands. But it is something that sets up people apart that can build that. Okay, I'm going to put you guys out of your misery. You don't have to sit here for 30 more minutes. All right, so how we do? Let me see.
Terrible.
You got a quarter of a green side.
I've got more than a quarter of a green.
Okay, great. Hey, actually, that's pretty good. All right, round of applause to you guys. Thank you very much. All right, I have $50 Amazon gift card for you each. Thank you for letting me. You guys are pathetic, but go away. Yeah, you can keep the Rubik's Cube as well. It's all yours. You guys need some practice. Okay, now here's the thing. Why did I just happen to do a Rubik's Cube? A Rubik's Cube is an interesting thing for me. So people that, fewer than 2% of all adult Americans can complete a Rubik's Cube. It's a very small percentage of people. So with the same exact equipment, you can get a very, very, very different result. And that takes hours and hours and hours and transactions to learn how to do a Rubik's Cube and complete that. It takes a lot of time. Only incredibly intelligent, smart people, all right, I'll do it. Here. All right, hit the music, please. God, I hope I can do this. So the fun part about doing a Rubik's Cube, the first thing you do is you start with the bottom. It's the foundation, right? So the foundation of building a Rubik's Cube is actually that you start getting all of the bottom down. Now there's multiple ways to do the Rubik's Cube. I actually do the easiest, which takes the longest, so I'm not one of those like do it in 15 seconds. But foundation matters the most. Start with the bottom, then you're gonna build up from there. All right, turn it up again, I can't. All right, so then you get the second row, which took me way longer than Norv does because I'm on stage. But you get the second row, right? So again, this though actually looks like it's almost done, right? Someone who is almost there, you're like, oh my God, you've done such a great job. But the hardest parts actually come next. It is not getting to this point. Someone that is almost there, someone that's 75% is good, it still is incomplete. I think Dave said on stage, content that is not perfect is 0% perfect. This is not a completed Rubik's Cube, right? All right, let's keep going. All right, so I'm gonna be honest, I've done that once on stage and I totally fucked it up. So that was pretty nerve-wracking and I'm glad I actually did it. Okay, whew. I've been nervous all day about that if I'm super honest. I'm very happy that's done. All right. All right, so I hope you get my point. I didn't just like wake up one day and like watch a YouTube video and do that. I call that my couch cube. I like sit there and watching TV. I've done thousands and thousands of times, right? The fastest I've done is ever like 42 seconds or something like that when I've timed myself. Probably faster when I haven't, but like this is transactions, right? It's actually no different. With the same exact equipment, we had those 3 pathetic people up here trying it, and there's no chance. Well, my favorite thing about a Rubik's Cube actually is someone at Pattern, Tiffany. Tiff, are you in the room? Is she not? Okay. Tiffany, she actually was like, I'm gonna learn to do this. And how long has it taken Tiffany to? Months. And I was like, this is how you do it. She was like, I don't know what to tell you, right? Like the point here is like, it takes so much time and transactions to be able to be an expert thing. They say, 10,000 hours or whatever of a thing to be an expert. It's the same exact thing. With the same equipment, you cannot do the same thing. It matters a lot being a specialist in a thing. So let's talk a little bit more. Let's dive in a little bit deeper now. We've been up conceptual. Let's dive in and talk about this. Look, the complexity, I'm going to talk for the next whatever number of minutes, and we're going to talk about how complex and hard this actually is to do in real life. You've got B2B, D2C, and marketplace. I'm going to split those into 3 buckets, right? From a B2B perspective, EDI, like this is, I'm not going to read them all, you've got eyes. But like, this is supposed to be like, holy shit, I can't do all of these things, right? How do you think about something that is much more complicated, like containerization? That's something a B2B brand never has to do ever, right? So they always are bad at that thing. They can't figure that piece out. Marketplace requirements, again, Amazon sellers in the room, right? Like this is hard. This is hard to do right. And it's pretty easy to get a C and very hard to get an A in doing this from a marketplace perspective. It's very hard. Let's zoom in a little bit more on Amazon. Anyone love all the changes in the supply chain world Amazon done the last few years? Yeah, hell yeah. No? All right. Like all of these things, right? This is another one of those. This is insane. AWD changes, like reverse logistics, the way that they did those fees. A brand new API for API users that came out was completely, it didn't even work. I think I saw Gavin in the room. Gavin is like a developer, and Josh, these people work on our stuff, and it's a disaster. It's very, very hard to do. These guys are up very late, and they work real hard to get that stuff done for us. These the placement fees, storage fee changes, the complexity has increased, and they're pushing, Amazon and other marketplaces are pushing complexity onto the brand. If you don't have the ability to navigate that, it's really hard. So let's focus on placement fees to dive in just a little bit deeper. Anyone familiar with placement fees? Of course you are. It's a sad, sad thing, right? It's one of the biggest things that happened in e-commerce in the last year and a half. By far, the most impactful thing for many brands. Companies don't exist because of placement fees anymore. That is a true statement. Amazon sellers don't exist because of placement fees. What they essentially did, I'll break it down as quickly as I can for those that are not familiar. Traditionally, well, Amazon has two major networks. They have a standard network and an oversized network. And they've got some others. They've got apparel and the very, very large AMXL, et cetera. But the two major ones that get most of the volume, standard and oversized. Traditionally, when you send something to the standard network, it goes through a cross-dock. That cross-dock then goes to the fulfillment center. So cross-docks don't send it to your house. They send it to another fulfillment center. The fulfillment center sends it to your house, right, to your doorstep. So traditionally, they've been, our biggest facility is Hebron, Kentucky. So in Hebron, Kentucky, we would create a shipment. They would say, send that shipment, or a full truckload, or lots of different things. Send that to Indy 9 in Indianapolis. We'll get it across the country for you. Here's what happened at Amazon in the last 5 years. Amazon outgrew their cross-dock. So each one of these cross-docks can attach, or can connect to, let's call it this is not the real number exactly, but let's call it 40 to 50 Amazon fulfillment centers. Well, Amazon has over 250 fulfillment centers at this point. What does that mean? That means that each cross-dock can actually only connect to a subset of the overall. That's a pretty big problem, right? Because what we know is that speed has an impact on conversion, and that's Amazon's whole thing, right? They've moved from 2-day delivery to next-day delivery to same-day delivery. That time you can see delivered today or delivered tomorrow morning between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. That's impactful. We have data that shows there is conversion lift if you can get there. But in the old system, you can't do that. So Amazon did something called regionalization. They said, I'm going to have different cross-docks. I'm going to increase the number of cross-docks. I'm going to create a 2-tiered cross-dock system, which I think is dumb. You could have done it in other ways better, but that's what they did. They essentially said, if you want to get to the right place, we're going to essentially say, in each region, I've got a number of FCs. So if you send it to a cross-dock in that region, I can get it to the fulfillment centers that it needs to. But if you don't, you can send it to a national cross-dock, which then goes to a regional cross-dock, which then goes to an FC, which adds on average about 11 days, by the way, non-peak, longer than that during peak, to get your product into the marketplace, which is crazy. So if you're sending it to a national cross-dock, not only are you paying a placement fee, which you can see between 20 cents and $6 an item, but you're also going to do it at least 11 days, because you have to wait for an appointment at the national, then the regional cross-dock, and then the FC, and then it gets stowed, and then it actually can be shipped. It's a massive change. This is a huge, and 21 cents might not sound like a lot, but of the Amazon sellers in here, how many have a product under $25? 25 cents is actually pretty significant. For some brands, that 25 cents, 30 cents, 32 cents is the average if you're sending to one cross-dock in the Midwest, for example, right? That's super expensive. That's actually over 1% of your total. For some brands, manufacturers, that is the only profit you had on some SKUs, right? If you go down from 25, think about how impactful that is. If you got a $12 item, you're giving up 30 cents, there's no chance you can do it. But the alternative is what? I now have to ship it from Hebron, Kentucky to California. It's okay, that's 12 times more expensive, and LTL during peak last year in Amazon was what? 34 days. 34 days on average. Little bragging, I'll step over here for a second. We were 4.3 days average throughout peak last year, because we're awesome. But that's what you have to go up against, right? From a brand perspective, you're like, what? I'm going to decide to spend a shitload of money, or I'm going to wait forever, right? And it takes a really, really, really long time. Okay, so this is a practical example. This is our actual volume. So if you look at February 2024, we had, I said Indy 9, right? 83% of our stuff went to one building, and then it was like another 9% or something like that went to FWA4. This is in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Those two trucks are average about like $650 for us. We were full truckloads. We're doing a lot of volume, right? Now, in May 2024, that's what you see. You see that split. And then what does May 2025 look like? Even worse. They launched a lot more cross-docks. They've actually changed their placement algorithm in January of this year, didn't tell anybody. And they changed it again in February and didn't tell anybody. This stuff is changing. It's becoming extremely complex and fractured. So how do you solve this problem? And there's some people in the room that I already recognize that are part of our network, either directly through Core, or they're part of our 3PL. They use middle mile, or we actually create their shipments for them. And what we've created is density. Density wins. And actually, I will boldly say something that Amazon will not solve this problem for sellers. They're not incentivized to. We can solve this problem ourselves and together. If we create density together, we actually can all benefit from the cost. And actually, Amazon benefits as well because they get denser containers into their into their FCs and their cross. I ran inbound many times or for a long time at Amazon, many years, and a very dense trailer is what I want anyway. So it gets naturally and organically prioritized, right? It just happens. Let's zoom out now. We talked about Amazon. Let's talk about U.S. marketplaces. This is the last few years, right? Obviously, Amazon's the big one in the room. You see some overall trends. Shopify has been up and down a little bit, right? They've had some struggles. They made some bad decisions. They made some good decisions. Walmart is growing a little bit. They've made a ton of investment. I like to say that in the last 5 years, I've had 2 major disappointments. One was season 8 of Game of Thrones. Moment of silence. Terrible. What a disaster. What it could have been. And the second is Walmart's e-commerce. I got divorced in there somewhere. It stands. Look, and it's a little bit of a joke. Obviously, Walmart's e-commerce, right, they're now investing in, they're finally, if you go out there and read, they're finally investing. I think that last week they just announced, right, that it grew like 21%, the first time they've been profitable. They're finally getting some really great, I worked at Amazon with the head of e-commerce there now at Walmart, and he's an absolute rock. Like, they've really invested in great people to do that thing. So I continue to expect, I think Walmart will be interesting. They're so hard. Is anybody selling Walmart today? It's tough. It's hard. They don't make it really, really easy. I think that they're still many years behind Amazon. Like, I heard somebody say the other day that they've said they're like 3 years behind Amazon. That is a dirty lie. They're a decade at least behind Amazon still. There's a lot of work still to be done. Even their APIs. Amazon's aren't even great, and they're much, much, much worse. Just take a look at Europe. Even more complicated. What's interesting about Europe is you've got a lot more marketplaces, right? There are a lot more. Amazon's still the big one. And then you've got this huge chunk on the bottom of a bunch of around the same size and lower growth, but it's where consumers are. And really, we need to break this out a little bit differently. This is not true if you think about each individual country. So for example, in Poland, Allegro is the biggest, and Amazon basically doesn't exist. So if you had this broken up by country, it's totally different. Most of the Amazon sales, for example, are in the UK and Germany. They're by far the biggest markets outside in Europe for Amazon, but overall Amazon is still the biggest in Europe. So you've got all these other ones, but they're very, very localized. The point here to take is that it is super complex to navigate this. And I think this is the same as John's slide, which I stole. That is just a reminder that of what we just talked about, there's some monsters in the room, and they are not anywhere close to Europe or the US, right? Alibaba, Pinduoduo, Douyin, JD.com. Look at that. Of the top 5, that is a bunch of extra, a lot of dollars and a lot of transactions that don't exist. And you talk about hard, talk about in China. The consumer in China, this is my most interesting stat when I've gone over there and talked to our team. And we're global, right? We've got a team there in Guangzhou, in Beijing, and Shenzhen. Like, we have the consumer in China, 80% of them talk to someone. They chat with someone about a product before they buy it. That sounds horrible. I don't even like talking to you. I don't want to talk to anybody about a product. Like, it feels insane to say in this room. But that is what happens in China. What a different type of complexity. If you just said, I'm going to go figure it out in China, you can't do that. Specialists matter there, right? So much. How do they talk? The language, what do they sell? What do they expect? Do they care about Chinese brands? Do they not care about Chinese brands? It's a completely different motion for someone that's selling in China. And the basic idea here is your inventory management and your supply chain capabilities actually will unlock your ability to do other things. If you don't have flexible inventory. I met with a brand yesterday, actually. We were meeting over at the Hyatt. And they were like, what I can't figure out is in our WMS and with our current 3PL, how to do an allocation. So I can't take my 1,000 units and say, I want to make sure that these 300 are there for D2C, and the balance of them can be used for either Walmart, Amazon, or whatever. Sounds like a pretty simple thing. Most WSs cannot do that thing. Most WMSs cannot do that. What feels like a simple thing to many people, but it is a very, very challenging thing to actually build. I met with another brand yesterday. I actually don't know if Karen is in here. Karen, are you in here from Philips? Okay, I'll talk about her then. Karen was like, my 3PL doesn't actually use expiration dates. And they told me they could try to figure it out. I was like, good luck, right? She was like, right, like these are things that sound very simple, but they're actually much harder than you think. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a view. This is what we talked about. This is where a day was a dirty liar. We've got lots of hardware. So we've spent, I said, tens of millions. This is Hebron, Kentucky. I'm going to show you a video, a little bit of what we built. This is not just showing off what we have. A little bit it is. But most importantly, when you have the ability, I've got 4 former Amazon executives with myself that are the leadership team and my operations team. We have seen it, we've done it, we've built it, we're going to continue to build it, and it allows us to be able to know exactly what we're able to do to build something like this. This is not just I have money, this is knowledge, experience, and thousands of hours operating in this type of environment. So take a look.
At Pattern's Next Generation Fulfillment Center in Hebron, Kentucky, we're built to scale, shipping millions of units each week. We are focused on quality and scalability, removing touches and decisions required by warehouse associates, and leaning on our proprietary technology to do the hard work. Let's see how we do it. First, your shipment arrives at our warehouse. Pattern checks in your shipment and applies what we call an ISL, or inbound shipment label, to each carton. The ISL allows us to trace it through our inbound process. Once labeled, an associate loads cartons on the conveyor. One of the keys to our speed is how we spread the volume across dozens of associates who simultaneously prep your product. At the station, the warehouse associate takes a box and scans the carton's ISL to start the process. The associate scans an item from the carton, completes a quality check on the product, and enters critical information we need to create the shipment. Pattern software guides the associate through the required prep, including labeling and creating multi and variety packs. Next, the associate applies the PCL, or Pattern Carton Label, which indicates that the units have been officially received by Pattern. The package then goes on the takeaway conveyor. During the journey on the conveyor, Pattern leverages its API integrations to kick off the shipment creation process and determine the destination fulfillment center, all in milliseconds. At sort, an associate scans the PCL, and the marketplace carton label, or shipping label, is automatically printed and can be applied to the carton. The carton then travels over 1,000 feet until it arrives at our vision tunnel, where the magic happens. The vision tunnel performs a 5-sided scan of each carton, weighs it, gets dimensions, assigns its destination, and can automatically divert down the right lane for shipping. Our systems allow our associates to make the most of every cubic foot in every single truck. Because our shipments are combined across seller accounts, density improves, and together, we all save on transportation costs. Finally, our dock team gets your shipment on the road quickly, so it can get to marketplaces and to your customers lightning fast. Fast fulfillment, effortless shipping. To learn more about Pattern's marketplace prep and other fulfillment solutions, visit us online.
We've talked about a ton of different ways that AI has been used across e-commerce. The most impressive, in my opinion, that was my voice, actually. That is a lie. That's not true. Actually, the first cut we did of that video, the first round, this is the second video, the first round, we shot this video, and our CMO, Carolyn's right here, actually, they watched this video, the marketing team's like, oh, we love it, there's a couple changes we're gonna make, okay? In the first video, I'm like on it, I'm doing a voiceover, everything else, and they're like, this is great, we're gonna make a couple changes. I see it a week later, and they're like, oh, this is so much better. I'm out of the video, and it's the only thing that changed. I'm like, this is literally exactly the same, I just am not in it anymore. And they were like, it's perfect. So like it's hard stuff, right? And we built it repeatable. People off the street can get 80% of defect-free in their first day of working. This is hard stuff. It's all homegrown software that we built ourselves. We've got product like Middle Mile where you can, like I said, you can create your shipment, you can do everything else, get it to us, and we just get it in. We can use that for 1 carton or 1,000,000 cartons. We've got Las Vegas and Hebron and actually in our Vegas facility, which just launched last month officially, or I guess in March we had a grand opening. That sorter is actually 4.5 times as fast as this sorter. It's a shoe pin sorter that goes much, much faster. I'm actually gonna fire through this really quick. I wanna talk about Amazon and innovation outside the warehouse of Amazon. Amazon built a bunch of warehouses in a rather short period of time, right? 2017 to 2021, that's a massive lift. Does anyone know why Amazon did that? Any guesses? What? COVID. Speed? Conversion? These are true, but you're solving different problems than Amazon. Amazon started running out of human beings in some of these cities, which is a crazy thing. You're not solving the same problem that Amazon is. Indianapolis, Indiana, I lived there for 4 years or whatever that was and worked in Amazon buildings. We had 7,000 people in that building. We had 4.5% weekly attrition. 4.5% weekly attrition. Just do the math on that. How many? We literally turned our entire workforce 3 times a year, mathematically. It was absurd. It was crazy. If you live in Indianapolis, you are making under $25 an hour, and you are over 18 years old, there's a 78% chance that you've worked for or currently work for Amazon. What a stupid number. Amazon is solving different problems than you are. Don't look at what they've done and say, I need to go replicate that. You're not solving the same problem. Your D2C doesn't need to be as fast. Your consumers don't expect the same thing. They've come to your site. You can lose a conversion. You can't make it through speed. This is the bottom line for me. If you do not work with the experts, you have to be the expert. And the reality is if you have 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 or 15 people, it's very unlikely that, it's like my VP of supply chain, Andrew Bignell. Andrew was Amazon for 8 years, top of class, MIT, big brain, very tall. His name matches quite well. Super, super smart guy. He ran North American supply chain for Amazon, and now he does it for us, for the world. That kind of person you cannot get on your team. If you are not an expert, I guarantee you can't attract those kind of people to a brand. Work with the best. It pays to work with the best. Okay, Ellie, come on up. Welcome her up. All right, Ellie. Thank you for coming up.
Of course.
Why don't you first tell us who you are, who you work for. Tell us a little bit about Super Coffee.
Absolutely. So my name's Ellie, and I'm the Director of E-commerce at Super Coffee. If you're not familiar with us, we're a better-for-you coffee brand. Our kind of hero product is a zero sugar bottled latte, so very similar to a Starbucks Frappuccino, but in my opinion, it tastes a lot better and has no sugar, so win-win. And yeah, I manage Amazon and anything related to e-commerce, all under the sun.
How long have you been at Super Coffee?
Almost 4 years, which is insane.
Yeah?
Hard to believe.
Also, I like that we matched.
Yes, I know. We didn't even plan this.
I know.
Insane.
Okay, so one of the cool things about Super Coffee, why I asked Ellie to come up, Super Coffee is a brand I've worked with at multiple companies. They're actually, I've watched, the bros actually start this. It was actually, when I first started them, it was Saniva back in the day, and then it became Key2 Super Coffee, and then
4 brand name changes.
Yeah,
so.
I was,
Good
anyone
times.
want to change listings on Ford? Yeah, I did that thing, right? Everybody's done that. It has been really cool to see massive growth. And what's been interesting is e-commerce for a long time, right, was a pretty small portion of the overall sales. So talk us through a little bit, where are you distributed? How have you done it in the past? Talk us through the journey a little bit of operationally, where are you selling and how have you solved that problem in the past?
Yeah, definitely. So we are first and foremost a brick and mortar retail first brand. We got our start in small regional grocery store chains and then expanded from there. But Amazon kind of through it all has always been a part of our business. And in the last few years, really since post-COVID e-com boom, it's been the fastest growing segment of our business. So definitely one that we are going to continue to double down on. So yeah, Amazon is paramount. And really, I think the most exciting, aspect of our Amazon business is that we've really used Amazon as a test ground for a lot of the new innovation we've released, and we've partnered with our 3PL partners to kit out variety packs and really test and learn to figure out what the customer wants. And so that's been really exciting to be a part of and grow the business in that way.
So let's dive in the fulfillment side. You guys, I've watched you go kind of oscillate back and forth between, is it Do you do all in one? Are you just B2B? So talk us through as specific as you can be and want to be. What's been the journey of like, we're using all, and this is not I don't want this to be a Pattern commercial. So if we suck at stuff, you should tell people too, right? That's the intent. But what has been the journey of like, B2B, all combo, like help us understand what you guys have done.
Yeah, so in the last 10 years, we've switched strategies 3 times, which I definitely would not recommend. We've learned a lot since the beginning. So in the early years, we were completely decentralized. We had, I think, like 4 3PLs that we worked with, so 4 separate relationships plus an e-com fulfillment center. So really difficult to manage, but we were kind of getting by because we were just a scrappy startup. But then very quickly, when 2020 and 2021 hit, our e-com sales went through the roof when a lot of our customers weren't purchasing coffee in a coffee shop, right? They're making coffee at home for the first time. And very quickly we realized that we needed to try to consolidate our business the best we can to really streamline operations. That lasted about 1.5 years, being fully consolidated. And then in the last 2 years, we decided to make a slight pivot and bring in a 3PL e-com specialist, and that's where Pattern came in. So very happy to report we're happy with where we landed, and it's definitely the best, I think, model for our continued growth in the future.
So there are some advantages of doing a consolidated. I mean, tons of brands in here. This is what they do today. So can you help me understand a little bit? What are the nice things about having the centralized model, and what are the disadvantages?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, when you're working with a consolidated 3PL, all of your inventory is in one place. Which for us, being a consumable product, that was a huge advantage, right? Because we are tracking expiration dates, lot codes, all of the above. So having inventory in one location with one partner was really, really beneficial. And then also, and this kind of later became definitely a con, but when you work with a kind of more generalist 3PL, they are very good at precision and repetition. So if it's a Target PO or a Walmart PO where there's a very set kind of standard rules, they're great at executing that. They could do that all day long. So that's definitely a plus for our B2B side of the business, but obviously not great for an e-com side of the business. As everyone knows in this room, e-com is nothing if not ever changing. And you layer in a TikTok trend or spike in sales or a peak selling season, and your entire supply chain can be disrupted if you're with somebody that can't pivot. And that's certainly what happened with us, and we can definitely get into that. And then lastly, I think on like the, I guess, pros of being with one partner, since you're not moving your inventory around to so many different locations, you can reduce your freight costs. So obviously that's great. But at the end of the day, it's like at what cost, right? So, and ultimately that led us to our decision to diversify and bring in a specialist.
Yeah, so talk us through that. What was the moment where you were like, this is obviously something that we need to change? Like, because I know a lot of brands in here are having that same kind of thought process. So
Yeah.
What was where you were like, hey, it has to change? What was it?
Definitely, yeah. So there was kind of a perfect storm of like horrible situations that all came to a head at one point. So it was November of, I think it was 2023. We were obviously ramping up for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We're chasing TikTok shop sales. And at the same time, we're also trying to fulfill Walmart POs, Target POs, get those out the door before end of month. So that led to not only us having to fight over inventory that we had in-house, but also it caused so much confusion with our kind of B2B centered warehouse where they couldn't pivot and allocate enough resources to get both goals across the finish line. And ultimately, our e-com business suffered because we were completely deprioritized. And so, as we all know, going out of stock on Amazon, even one day can be detrimental to our business. And we were out of stock in many SKUs for 6+ weeks following that Black Friday debacle. And so that was really kind of the turning point for us, and Pattern kind of came in and saved the day. And it was crazy looking back at the numbers. We were able to, once we brought Pattern back on board, we were fully in stock within 30 days after bringing you guys on board. So just really just a game changer and a huge unlock for us.
The expiration, you talked about expiration date. That's something for consumables for people in the room. Have you guys found a way to like that's actually a pretty big point for lots of people. You could have a bunch of stuff going expiring if you've split your inventory pool up like you have chosen to do. Have you guys found a way to navigate some of the expiration date risk?
Yeah, it's been tough. Certainly with our B2B warehouse that we're working with now, they have kind of their own systems, and we work with a WMS to kind of report on those. And then Pattern has really come into play too with just the advanced kind of reporting portals that are available. And so we've been able to track that way, but it's definitely not perfect. Hopefully one day we'll get to that point, but definitely a work in progress.
Cool. Well, what advice do you have for brands that are going through this thing right now?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, it's a huge decision, and so definitely don't take it lightly. And I think if I were to give like one kind of overarching piece of advice, it would be to find a partner that is rooted in technology and process, and they have that subject matter expertise, but they're also able to be agile to like the changing needs of your business, whatever they may be. So that's easier said than done, as Rob kind of pointed out. So finding that balance is so important. And then kind of last 2 points, I'd say probably, this is more simplified, but finding a fee structure that's simplified. I think that's often overlooked. A lot of these 3PLs will like nickel and dime you, and you need a whole team of auditors to even, audit your invoice. It should not be that complicated, and Pattern has done a really great job of that. And then I'd say probably lastly, and this is probably more applicable to maybe smaller brands in the room or brands that are just starting to take off, but don't try to find a partner that can only meet your current needs. Try to think bigger picture. So if you're just on Amazon right now, think about what your brand will look like 5-10 years in the future, and find a partner, that can help you launch in other marketplaces. And we've certainly found that with Pattern. Like we launched in, I think, 3 marketplaces in a year, which was incredible. So having that ability is huge and will be a huge unlock.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.